everyone, this is Teacher Mai and welcome to Mathematics class. Before we start with, let me share you this. The Coronavirus Health and Safety Guide. Remember, always wash your hands. Wear a face mask when going out. And keep your distance at least 1.5 meters to the person you encounter outside. Okay, I hope everyone will be safe all the time. Let's now begin. We are now on quarter 1, week 3. And this is the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation. Are you ready, guys? Let's begin. The objective of this lesson is: first, describe the relationship between the coefficients and the roots of a quadratic equation. Second, determine the sum and the product of the roots of quadratic equations. And third, value the knowledge gained from the sum and product of roots as means of new understanding. Let's start with celebrity bluff, because I know that each one of you guys are celebrities for me. Okay, prepare a clean sheet of paper and we are going to start. This is just a recap. Okay, so simply have fact or a bluff. Write fact if the statement is correct and bluff if it is incorrect. You guys ready? Let's have question number 1. Quadratic equation is an equation of degree 3. Is it a fact or a bluff? Go. You have 5 seconds to answer. Time is up. What do you think is the answer? Yes, it's a bluff. Very good. So, why is it incorrect? Because quadratic equation is an equation of degree 2, not degree 3. Okay? Let's have question number 2. The quadratic formula is shown as x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Is it a fact or a bluff? Go! Okay, time's up. Your answer is fact. Correct. Very good, guys. So if that is fact, meaning that is really the quadratic formula. And you have to remember it all the time, okay? Let's have question number 3. In the equation 2x squared plus 5x is equal to 3, the value of the coefficients a, b, and c are 2, 5, and 3 respectively. Is it fact or bluff? Go! Okay, so your time is up. Your answer in here is bluff. Correct. Maybe you got it correctly. So in this equation, why is it incorrect? Because as you can observe, there is always a transformation of the given equation. So if it's not in standard form, make it standard form. So that is, it must be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 before you identify the coefficients. Remember, ang coefficient natin yung number bago ang ating given literal coefficient. Okay, so your value of a is 2, b is 5, and your c is negative 3. Because we will move this 3 to the left side of the equation. Okay, so that's the reason why it is bluff. Let's have question number 4. To characterize or describe the roots of a quadratic equation, we use the discriminant b minus 4ac. Is it fact or a bluff? Go! Okay, so what do you think is our answer for this question number 4? The answer is bluff also. What makes it incorrect? Sige nga, tingnan nyo nga itong given na discriminant. What must be our discriminant? So, to find the discriminant of a quadratic equation, we use the radicand of the quadratic formula. So, what is the radicand? Meaning that is inside the radical sign of our quadratic formula. That is b squared minus 4ac. So, what's missing? Nawawala dito ay ang ating exponent, which is 2. That's why it is known to be bluff. Okay, so I hope you got 4 points to this. And you guys are very good. Let's now continue. Sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation. So the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation bx squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 can be determined using the coefficients a, b, and c. So may kinalaman ang sum and product of the roots dito sa coefficients ng a, na b, and c. Okay, just remember that the roots of a quadratic equation can be determined by using quadratic formula. Because as you can observe the quadratic formula in here, there are a, b, and c, which are coefficients. And this is positive or negative, meaning you can have plus or minus. We have the two values for x. And that two values of x are, you have the first value, negative b plus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And the other one is negative b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, let us use these two values of x just to solve or determine the sum and the product of the roots. Okay? Now, I will show you how to derive the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation. So, it is shown here. From the first one is the sum, wherein we are going to add the first value of x to the second value of x. So, that is given from the quadratic formula. And the other one is product of the roots, meaning you will multiply the first value of x to the second value of x. So, let's start with sum of the roots. Okay, first, remember that if you have the same denominators, you will just copy the denominator. That is in addition. Kapag nag-add kayo, huwag kalimutan na kapag pareho, you will just copy the denominator. Then, you can start adding the numerators. You will just add this. So, negative b is still copy. Then, plus, instead of addition, you still have here negative. So, you can have negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Then, let us continue. So, we have here now, to have the sum, why do we have this negative 2b? Because we can cancel this positive square root of b squared minus 4ac and negative square root of b squared minus 4ac. Once you cancel this, it will become 0. Okay, because that is inverse or the opposites. Then, after canceling that, the remaining is negative b and another negative b, which shows that you have two negatives. That's why you have here negative 2b all over or just over 2a. Okay, now, as you can observe, we have here negative 2 and you have positive 2. You can cancel this 2 and that results into negative b over a. So, we have now the formula taken from the quadratic equation And this negative b and positive a are coefficients. Okay, coefficients of a quadratic equation. Now we can say that the sum of the roots of quadratic equation is negative b over a. Pwede na natin malaman kaagad kung ano ang sum ng ating quadratic equation gamit lang yung kanyang coefficients. Okay, let's now proceed with the product of the roots. Kung ang ating sum is negative b over a, ano naman kaya ang product of the roots? So let's have here product. So you will simply get the two of them. It will become negative b plus, okay, so square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Multiply it here. It is negative b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. Okay, now once you multiply it, the result will be negative b squared. Then observe this one, they have opposite sign, so it will become positive times negative is negative. Then b squared, so you have here the b squared minus 4ac, knowing that you have here the negative value. So you will copy negative 4ac. Okay, why ma'am? Because you have negative here and negative, you have 2. And that is already in quadratic, or this one is a square root. Therefore, you can bring out negative 4ac and then have it squared. Okay, next is all over 2a times 2a. So you have here 2a squared. That x squared or x sub 1 times x sub 2 will be now, okay, once you get the square of that, so negative b times negative b is positive b, but you have here the squared, therefore you have b squared minus, you have square root of b squared, then you have squared here, that's why you can cancel. Once you cancel that, become b squared. So matatanggal na natin yung ating square root. Then this one is negative times negative is a positive value. So you have positive 4ac. Okay, now you can also simplify this if you want. You can have your scratch paper with you and then just get the value for this in a long way. Okay, now let's proceed. X sub 1 times x sub 2 will become now b squared minus b squared. You can cancel. Once you cancel that, the remaining in your numerator is just 4ac all over 4a squared. And this 4 over 4 can be equal to 1. So that is now 4 divided by 4 is 1. Then a, and a also can be cancelled. But remember, there is a squared in the denominator. Therefore, there is a remaining a in your denominator. And in your numerator is c. That's why you have c over a. This c over a are coefficients from quadratic equation. And this becomes the formula in getting the product, okay, of the roots of quadratic equation. Remember, this c over a is the product of the roots of quadratic equation, while the sum is negative b over a. Okay, so how do you describe that in terms of its coefficients? There is an inverse ratio. Inverse ratio of your linear, which is b, the linear term, to its quadratic term. And the product, you have the coefficients from the constant. So it is the ratio of the constant term and the quadratic term. Okay, so let's now have the examples for this. Illustrative example number 1. Find the sum and products of the roots of quadratic equation. X squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. First thing to do is, of course, to check if that is already in standard form. Then, let's identify the value of A, B, and C. So, your A is 1, your B is 5, your C is 6. Okay. Now, after identifying the values of A, B, and C, we can substitute it to the formula of getting the sum and product of the roots. So, to find the sum, we have here x sub 1 plus x sub 2. That is the sum. That is equal to negative b over a. Now, we can substitute. The value for b is positive 5. Therefore, you have here negative 5 over 1. That is the value of a. Now, we can simplify. Negative 5 over 1 is just equal to negative 5. This negative 5 now is known as the sum of the roots of x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. Okay? So, we have now the sum. Without solving this given quadratic equation, we got the sum negative 5. Next is the product. So, to find the product of this given equation, we have x sub 1 times x sub 2 is equal to c over a. Now, let's substitute the value of c, which is 6. That becomes 6 over your a is 1. That's why 6 over 1. Or that's simply positive 6. This is now the product of the roots. Okay, therefore, the product of the roots of x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0 is positive 6. So, you have now the sum. At the same time, you have the product of the roots. Now, to check if that is really correct, we can go back to the basic. We can solve for the values of x and check if that is really correct. Let's now have the solving. So, solving for the value of x, we have here the given equation x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0, which is already in standard form. Now, we can use factoring just to solve for this. So, by factoring, we can think of the values or factors of 6, which is 3 and 2. Because when you add 3 and 2, you have positive 5. And remember, they are both positive. Therefore, the value or our signs will be positive. You have here x plus 3 times the quantity of x plus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, now we can equate both by 0, both factors. That is by 0 product property. So you have x plus 3 is equal to 0 and x plus 2 is equal to 0. So it can either be this or the other equation. Now we can solve for the value of x. Your x now is equal to negative 3 by transposition or by addition property of equality. So the other value for x is negative 2. Now, since you have the values for x, this is the first value of x and the second, let us now prove that the sum is really negative 5 and product which is positive 6. So, let's get the sum. To find the sum, you will just add the values of x that we have in here, which is negative 3 and positive or negative 2. And that results into negative 5. So, we have negative 5 as the sum of the roots. And for the product of the roots, we will just multiply negative 3 times negative 2. That is equal to positive 6, which is the product. Now, we can say that this given formula, which is negative b over a, and for product which is positive c over a, will satisfy, okay, the given sum and product. Without solving for the value of x, we can already use this formula. Okay, so we prove it already. Now, I hope it's quite clear to you. But let us proceed with the second example. For illustrative example number 2, what is the sum and the product of the roots of the quadratic equation. 3x squared minus 2x is equal to 8. Now, what do you think will be our sum and product? We can already use the formula for the sum. So, before getting that, remember to make it in standard form. So, just have it 3x squared minus 2x. Then this positive 8 must be placed on the left side to make it ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So you have here negative 8 equals 0. So if you have this standard form of quadratic equation, we know already the values for a, b, and c, and that is a equal to 3, b equals negative 2, and c equals negative 8. Now we can substitute it to our given formula for sum, which is negative b over a. Now, substitute the value. That will become negative times your b is negative 2. That's why we have to place a parenthesis showing that this value of b is negative 2. Okay, all over, that is a, which is 3. Therefore, negative times negative, we have now positive 2 over 3. And this positive 2 over 3 is known as our sum of the roots of this given equation. 3x squared minus 2x is equal to 8. Okay, so again, that is positive 2/3. This is already our sum. Now for the product, we will use the formula c over a. So this is for the product of the roots. Let's now substitute. The value of c is negative 8, then over positive 3. So do we still have the simplified form? It can already be your product of the roots. So this is our product of the root. Therefore, that is the product of 3x squared minus 2x is equal to 8. Okay, guys? So I hope it makes clear to you. So let's now have some exercises for you to answer. Now let's apply what you have learned. So this is exercises number 1. Which of the following is the sum and product of the roots of the equation 2x squared minus 8x is equal to 10? Is it letter A, sum is equal to 4 and product is equal to 5? B, sum equals to 4 and product equals negative 5? Or C, the sum which is equal to negative 4 and product which is negative 5. Okay, so you have your time to answer. At least 5 seconds for this. Go! Time is up. Okay, let's see what's your answer for the first question or first exercises of us. So we have letter B. That is equal to 4 and the product of the root is equal to negative 5. Let's see. Why is it our answer? So showing that 2x minus x minus 10 is equal to 0. This is the standard form of the quadratic equation given. So if this is now the standard form, let us identify the value of A, that is 2, B, negative 8, and C, negative 10. Okay, now let us substitute for the sum which is equal to negative B over A. So it will become negative times negative 8 because your B is negative 8 all over 2. The negative times negative, it will give you positive 8 over 2, or that is positive 4. So you have now the value for the sum which is positive 4. Next, for the product, you have C over A. That's why you substitute the value of C, which is negative 10, over 2. That's why it will give us negative 5. So you have the sum, which is positive 4, and the product, which is negative 5. Okay, so good job. So I know you got it correctly. Let's proceed. Exercises number 2. What you have to do is to tell me if this is true or false. The sum of the roots of the quadratic equation 2x plus x squared is equal to 3 is 2 and its product is negative 3. Is it true or false? Go. You have 5 seconds. Time is up. Remember, kapag kayo po ay medyo nahirapan, you can post naman before we answer. Okay? So, no problem with that. Let's answer now. For this given, it is false. What do you think is the reason? Okay, observe now our equation. It is not arranged in standard form. That's why we need to arrange it into standard form first. X squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Okay, so we will start always with the highest exponent 2. So that's why you have here x squared plus 2x, then move this positive 3 to the other side, it becomes negative 3. Then your value for a is equal to 1, your b is positive 2, and your c is negative 3. So we can have the sum. Our sum of the roots is negative 5 over, or negative b over a, that is equal now to negative, then substitute for b, which is 2 over 1. That's why you have here negative 2 over 1, and that is just negative 2. Next is for the product. Your product's formula is c over a. That's why you have here negative 3 over 1, or simply negative 3. Did you get it right? Okay, so you got false because the given here is positive 2. And your answer, or the answer for the sum, must be negative 2. That's why it is false. Is it already clear? Good job. Okay, so you get it correctly. Now, try this. What you have to do is just to find the sum and the product of the roots of the following quadratic equation. So I will give you 2 quadratic equations. And in each given question or given item, you will have the sum and product of the roots of the quadratic equation. Just write it in a clean sheet of paper. This is the first equation. X squared plus 4x plus 9 is equal to 0. And the other one is 9x squared minus 6x is equal to 18. Maybe 15 seconds is good for you. Again, it's up to you how you handle it, and you can pause the video if you want to continue answering. Okay, your time starts now. Oh yes, time is up. Let us see if you got the correct answer. So just check it. I will show you here the solutions. For our solutions, we have here the first one. What you have to do is to just identify the value of A, B, and C. Okay, so your A is 1, your B is 4, and your C is 9 because it is already arranged in standard form. Okay? So to solve, we have this formula negative b over a. Therefore, it will become negative 4 over 1, or simply negative 4. That is the sum of the roots of x squared plus 4x plus 4, which is equal to 0. Okay, that is negative 4. Next is for the product. You have the product, you have c over a. So substitute, you have 9 because your c is 9 over 1. And 9 over 1 is simply 9. Therefore, the product of the roots is 9. Very good. Maybe you got that correctly. And good job. Let's have number 2. For the second given equation, we have, this is the standard form, 9x squared minus 6x minus 18 is equal to 0. Now we can identify for A, B, and C. Your A is 9, your B is negative 6, and your C is negative 18. Then we can solve. For the sum, you have negative B over A. Therefore, you have negative times negative 6 over 9 equals to 6 over 9. Let's simplify. Divide both sides by, or numerator and denominator by 3. That's why it is 2 over 3. That is our sum of the roots. And for the product of the roots, we have C over A. Therefore, you have negative 18 over 9. Or simplify it, it will give us negative 2. And this is now the product of the roots. I know you have the correct answer with you. Very good. Okay, so that's it. I can maybe left this to you as our generalization. So let's wrap up. For the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation, just remember that the sum of the roots or product of the roots of quadratic equation can be determined by using quadratic formula. So from the quadratic formula, you have two values for x, the positive and the negative 1. So negative b plus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and the other one is negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, just remember that to find the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation, we use this formula, negative b over a, or it is the inverse ratio of the linear term b and the quadratic term a. Okay, so you have to get the inverse if you are getting the sum. But for the product, to find the product of the roots of quadratic equation, we use the formula c over a. It is just the ratio of the coefficients of the constant term c and the quadratic term a. Okay, so I hope you learned a lot from this video. And this is all about sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation. For your math code today, I will just left to you, success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. So you will be successful enough if you're going to get the sum of your small efforts. So start having your effort now. At alam ko ginagawa niyo yan. So kapag nag-effort ka, kahit maliit yan, kapag pinagsama-sama, you will be successful. Okay, thank you very much and God bless everyone. Keep safe.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share!